Good evening. I'm Dr. Chris Zimmer, and I hope this finds all of you well. We're looking at what looks like the last day of the year, and Christmas seemed to have been tied into this, and we'll get into that and explore that a little bit because I found a new clue. And it looks like this is it, just like Kenny Loggins said back in 1979. Last time we looked at a summary and short story, we had a gift from God in a number of different sources, and it looks like that gift is still on the way. And this fourth and final clue actually looks like it says something in regard to that as well. So what did we have before? We had the 4-7 occultation of Venus by the moon and the 4-8 Great American Eclipse. If we subtract the times, we get a definition in Strong's that says a gift from God. And then Perry Stone came up with something in the Hebrew letters associated with Trump 45 and 47 in regards to his presidency. And that came up, a gift from God. And then finally, if we look at the Tishrei 1 through the precession of the equinoxes calculated over the last 3 ages, we get Tishrei 1 from 125 BC, where we looked at the Zadok calendar when that was being used. That took us to October 31st, and that gave us the door in regard to Halloween. And then Tishrei 1 around 1960 or 1950 BC, which is around Abraham's birth, gave us God and love through the number 26. And then finally, Tishrei 1 through the year 4004, the year creation, gave us Christmas Day. And then that gives us a theme of a gift or the birth of Jesus. Okay, so let's focus on this last week of the year because this is where all the clues seem to be converging. And I put in an extra week here to show that you can count this either forward, left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, from the 25th to the 31st, or you can count it backwards. And if you do that, then the numbers bracketing those 2 weeks end up being 71 or 17. And then 71, if we look at that in Strong's, we saw this before, it means go or bring forth. And we also saw this in Luke 17. 17, of course, is victory over overcoming the enemy. And if we put those back to back, because in Luke 17 we get 7/1/2024 as the date, then we get a 1771 and then a 2024. But that also shows up in the number pi, which I thought was interesting as well, especially if we look at the positions. The positions are 125, 24, and then 623, up through 125, 24, 630. And that 125, I think, is indicative of Revelation 12:5, where the child is caught up to God and to his throne. And then it also gives us the year 24. So in that, just in the position alone. And then the messages that go along with that in that fragment from pi are sail, long and far, depart, and air. So we get this fishing trip, sail or depart by ship. We get this fishing trip, and then we also have this flying away theme as well through the air. So these 2 themes seem to come through in this last week of December, and it also ties Christmas together with the last day of the year. Okay, and I had been seeing the number 444 in a number of different places, including the clock, and then I got this person who posted, Patrick Riley, 1664, who posted a whole bunch of 444s after this, and then he goes into English gematria. He says Jesus adds up to 444, which is interesting. The time has come is 444. Time to go home is 444. Lord Christ is 444, all very interesting. But here's something extremely interesting, is the 444th day of the Israeli war is December 24th, 2024, Christmas Eve. And then he goes on to say, Jews who don't recognize Jesus will certainly be jealous if Christians start disappearing on Christmas Eve. And of course that didn't happen, but I think there's a different meaning here. I think the December 24th or even December 25th Christmas, this 444 applies because it's if you found Christmas, this is giving you the number to find, or a clue to find the next date. So let's look at December 31st. This is just incidental, but if we look at the Revelation 12 sign to 1231, we get 2,656 days. And if we divide by the average solar year, we get 7.27 years. And this applies to that Strong's G727, which is one of those robbery-like words, harpax, and it means robber. And then, of course, if we divide by the solar year, we get 7.28 years. And Strong's 728 now is out of those four words. It's the next word, which is earnest. So we get robber, which seems to apply to that robbery or that 211 or that, that day when the rapture happens. And this time we're not seeing sincere or sincerely, we're seeing in earnest, which is practically a guarantee. Okay, now this is the biggest, I think, out of the whole bunch, because the 444, seeing this in a number of different places, caused me to look in pi. And this gives the last two dates and associates them together. So in pi, we see 4004, 44, 2024. So just a very short string, but there's a lot there. And this is the only occurrence in the first 100 million digits of pi. And then I give the positions there in case you want to check that out. So if we read this forward, we get that last date that gave us Christmas. We get 4004 BC. But we can also read this in reverse. And if we do that, we get another date, 4440 BC, which I'm not quite sure what that is. I'm not sure if it's in the, right in the creation week or how that's meant, but it's obviously a clue. And this is only given once in the first 100 million digits of pi, so it has to be important. And if we do read that in reverse, then this overlaps two digits with the former date, the 4004 BC, sort of telling us that there should be two dates present here, two dates to look for. So it looks like the last two dates that we need to look at, going right up to the very end of the year, are 4004 BC and 4440 BC. We've already done the 4004. That, of course, took us to Christmas. Now the next one, the 4440, let's examine that. And if we do that for the vernal equinox, that comes up 425, April 25th that year, and a time of 1916. And Strong's 425 is rest, liberty, and be eased. So this seems to be speaking towards the rapture, having rest, finally having rest. If we take that same ecliptic longitude J2000 and tie it to 2024, that'll give us a date of June 20th, 620 at 1:33 a.m. And Strong's 620 is to leave behind, to forsake, to abandon. So we get the message of rest and to leave. All right, so if we crunch the numbers for 4440 BCE, then of course we come up with an end date of December 31st. And the time is really not that important because it gets skewed a little bit over that many years. But again, this confirms December 31st, and this is the calculation for Tishrei 1. So this is telling us from that clue that we needed to calculate one more date for Tishrei 1. And I think if you remember, in one of my last videos, I said I had no way to prove that this was Tishrei 1, December 31st, even though it came up with lots of different clues, lots of different day counts that seemed to be saying it was. But now I have some way of proving it by looking back in pi and seeing the two dates together. So out of this, there's a message. The 444, of course, in Strong's is man, and that can be human being, whether male or female. And then the 4440, the year, means gate or gateway or entrance, and its usage is in Revelation 21:12 for New Jerusalem city, and it talks about the 12 gates of the city. So this is very interesting. This associates man, whether male or female, and then with the gate or an entrance. And we also have some other interesting dates too that kind of tie into this. The 1222 last year, the galactic alignment to 1231 is 375 days. That means send. So as if we're going to be sent somewhere. And then 323, Nisan 1 last year to 1231 this year, 649 days. And that means send or send forth. So we get a good message there as well. We had seen some of this before. We saw Strong's G4884 synarpazo, which is an even better word than harpazo, or more descriptive of the rapture. It says to seize by force and carry away. And of course, there's G71 again. But if we associate that with 71, we get 48. That was the day of all the, the eclipse and all the messages, all the day counts. It's kind of like a billboard. And then if we add 84 days to that, we get 7-1. So there's a direct association between 4884 and 7-1. And then, of course, the 71 again is go, bring forth. Also, 7-1 this year is Sivan 25, and 325 in Strong's is I send up or deliver. And finally, on Pentecost this year was May 19th, and that's ER 11, which is 211 on the Hebrew calendar. And that's fitting with our robbery theme, or the heist. And let's not forget, a while back we looked at 7-1, and Drayton Bunyan came up with the 68-day counts, this code, where if we count 68 days either way from 7-1 this year, one message is go up, and the other one is sincere. So that still is in play. That's 7-1, this last week of the year, 7-1, and even the last day, Tishrei 1, is still in play. So we're cleared for departure still. And we had, remember we had the moon occulting Venus. This was over, I think this was after it went through Chile and Argentina. And, this is from Puerto San Julian, Argentina, sorry. Just after that eclipse, I think about a month or so. And we got a moon occulting Venus and a time of 600, restore again. But if you look at the usage is 7-1. So here's another instance of 71. And of course, 71 is bring, lead, go, bring forth. So this sounds like it's about to happen. In fact, it can't go any further because we saw all the 4 books of the Bible that gave the date 7-1 in 2024. So it has to gel before the end of the year. It can't happen in 25, at least not according to those 4 instances or those 4 accounts in Scripture. And then, of course, last week we had, on 12/24, we had this sign where the moon occults Spica, and I even made a message in the comments where I said this is not a total dark moon. This is a crescent moon, which is, since Spica is the grain or the wheat, that this looks kind of like a sickle almost. It can be, for one thing, it's covering Spica, which makes it disappear like the rapture, but it's also sort of sickle-shaped, like it's cutting the ear of grain. So we got 24:24 from this, and that's Jesus, 21:12, which is immediately, and then 55, which is sincerely. So it looks like it's going to happen soon. Going back through this, of course, we had the 325 to 1225 was 9 months, and then we had 325 as deliver, and I think even that's still in play because Christmas is tied directly to 1231, through these last few clues, especially in Pi. And then we got lots of other, the 211 ties to Christmas. So we stay in the 153 big fish, and then 725 harpagmos, the robbery. All this fits in with Christmas. That's at one end of the spectrum, or one end of that last week. And then we still have the messages going all the way up to Nissan, counting to 1231, which is send or send away. And then we have the real interesting ones for 1231. We have change and reward, brethren, and then draught, as in a haul or catching a fish. And then from the signs on 919, the child asteroid as depicted birthed from Virgo, and the head is joined to the body Virgo by comet Schumacher-Levy. For 1225, we got something interesting. We had forbearance and sincere, and forbearance tells us to stick it out and wait for it. Excuse me. And 1231 actually says the day has come. It actually says reward and sing. So I had seen this before, but I couldn't really say that 1231 was a Tishrei 1 because I didn't have proof back then. Now I do. I've got clues, especially in Pi, that look like they say so. And finally, I've adjusted this for the last day of the year. It doesn't look like I'm going to do this ever again in 2024. This has got to be it. And even Japan jumps over into 2025. That's on January 1st. But that's on the other side of the international date line. All the other places are in 2024. So I'm looking forward to this. Cross my fingers along with the rest of you. I hope this is it. And God bless.